Hello and good morning, everyone. Sorry to catch you in a little late here, but we're going to let people come into the room. Very happy to join you for episode 24 of Compass Coffee Talk.
How is that possible?
Bill, can you believe this is 2 years now, which is, it's an interesting anniversary because really, I think that this podcast has become us trying to make lemonade out of lemons. You remember we did this right in kind of the heart of lockdown back in April, May 2020. We started planning for this.
It's about 6 weeks to get it organized, and here we are 2 years later, 24 shows. Kind of amazing.
Now, I want to say good morning to everyone out there. We're hoping to have David Bronner join us. We've been looking forward very much to this episode. David's been delayed in joining our program. We hope that he does. We're in touch with his team. So I'll tell you what, because Bill and I are musicians and performers, and a basic tenet of that is the show must go on.
That's right.
We're going to give it our best shot to have a conversation with you, our audience. And what we're hoping is that David will join us. He's got so much that he's been doing. As a matter of fact, just talk about him a little bit. One of the reasons we wanted to have him on Compass Coffee Talk is what I've learned in preparing for this show is, David is the CEO, Cosmic Engagement Officer. It is a 100% family-owned business. Bill and I were just discussing right there on the shelf. You can see I have like 6 Dr. Bronner's products in my household. Bill, you got 4. So, our friend, founder of Silk Soy Milk, Steve Demas, once told me, his aspiration was for Silk to become a household brand. And I said, what is a household brand? He said, well, it's when it's in every household and you've got that penetration and sales are in greater than $300 million. So we're taking a guess that this family-owned business, which sells all around the world, is let's just say it's definitely a household brand in this household.
We're not going to guess on the sales volume, right?
Right. But it's also 6th generation soap makers. Actually, 3 generations in Germany.
Yeah.
Before at least Emmanuel was able to come to America for his outspoken views when in the early 30s, when the Nazis were first starting to take control in Germany, he saw that his views were in opposition to what was going on, and he came to America. And now 3 generations of soap company here. So, it was a forceful change, but the family has taken this platform of soap, and amazingly, with David's leadership in particular, they are such a force for what I know, I speak for Bill and I, such a force for good in this world, from drug reform in our country to hemp reform, to cannabis reform, to regenerative agriculture, to GMO labeling, where I had the great opportunity to work with David on 2 different GMO bills, which we narrowly lost only because conventional agriculture and chemical and pesticide industries poured 10 times the amount of money that we were able to muster into those ballot initiatives in California and also Washington State. But David was very instrumental in a lot of that. Bill, we've got a lot of chats out there. I don't know if you want to say hello to any of our audience here. And again, we're happy to be on. We're sorry David couldn't make it, but we're going to have our conversation nonetheless, because there is a lot of stuff going on right now in the food industry and in the world, and how that's impacting it. So, Bill, what do you got?
Well, Jolene just put in an interesting comment. She says, "Hello from Red Belly Honey, the only in the world infused with CBD from hemp by honeybees, helping bees survive pesticides too." I'm very intrigued by this. I didn't know that there was a honey with CBD in it. So good on you guys. That's awesome.
Bill, actually, I met Jolene through Max Goldberg, one of our guests. And I just happened upon her booth in the arena,
Yeah.
kind of that end area there of the Natural Products Expo West. But
Yeah.
I actually like going over there.
I do too.
And lo and behold, there was Jolene and Red Belly Honey.
Okay.
Very interesting. They're feeding, among other, nutrients they've developed, but they're feeding, I believe, and Jolene can correct us, the hemp extract to the bees. And there's actually some research that we just published in Let's Talk Hemp that Jolene turned us on to, where, believe it or not, the CBD extract may actually be contributing to the longevity of bees, helping protect them against the adverse effects of pesticides. So there's research out there now, one study that's showing that promise.
Yeah. So she says they offer a full spectrum to the bees. So I'm assuming somehow that CBD is a part of the bees' makeup. Like it's a part of their DNA. I mean, that's how it would react, right? Isn't that what would happen?
Well, interestingly enough, we thought we had all the systems of the human body worked out, right? But it wasn't until 1994 when it was discovered we have an endocannabinoid system,
Right.
which is why cannabinoids work for us in a lot of different ways. I don't know if the bees have that or not.
Well, she posted up in the chat room a couple of links if you guys are curious and you want to go explore that a little bit. But this is the classic thing. So Al writes in, that 1971, he was in Bellingham, Washington, got exposed to Bronner's soap. And I have, a similar story in 73 going camping and taking it with me on my camping excursion because I knew that it broke down in the water, which was amazing.
Well, reading a little bit of the Bronner history, and if you go to Dr. Bronner's website, there is actually a really great page with their story. It was the hippie movement, 1969, 1970, that actually helped the resurgence of Dr. Bronner's because, it was, the soap every hippie had in their van, right? For camping. I did. We all did.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of love for Dr. Bronner's, the brand, and what it stands for. David, in particular, though, Steve, as we were doing our research, he's really, I think, taking it kind of to the next level with exercising what he knows the power of the brand is, but also addressing some of the problems of the world today. And those include, like you mentioned earlier, regen, but most recently, his work around helping to bring to the forefront how psychedelics can help people with problems. And I think it's really intriguing that an industry leader of ours is going down this path. I know you have some thoughts on this as well, and I'm sure other people do that are listening in about how Dr. Bronner's is making news about how they're going to help and work with the people that work for them overcome addictions. And I think it's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, his brother Michael is also a big advocate of ketamine therapy in helping to treat depression. So, Bill, you're right. This is a frontier that I think is really important. And these are some smart people, I think, and now they're taking on the issue of mental health. Now, I think that's really important in America. I think America has a mental health problem. It's been exacerbated by the pandemic, by the political divisions in our country. We need some anger management courses, I think.
we need more Dr. Bronners in our life, apparently.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
What else can we talk about? What else? We've got a lot of people in the chat room, I see. And guys, we are vamping it today. We love David, and I'm sorry that he wasn't able to make it today. That's all we can say.
I mean, these are busy people we recruit, Steve. And imagine, like, this is our first, kind of like, oops, I can't make it today. No show. Even very, very busy people have slotted in the time and made it, and we haven't had any issues come up at last minute. today's just one of those deals.
Yeah.
And happy to have
We apologize if you're here for David Bronner. But I will say, Bill, one of these times I actually just wanted to have a session where we just chatted a little bit. So here it is, hoisted upon us.
Well, I know that you and I could riff for a long time, and we're getting some great, stuff in the Q&A. So I know all of you can see that. I feel like, having been in the industry for a long time, like you have, Steve, there's only a few brands that come along in that period of time where you think, number one, they have historical perspective. Number two, they're continuing to evolve, which is how I always think of Bronner's, like rooted in the past but evolving. And two, they're household names, and there's a certain amount of brand loyalty that occurs for all of us that have been using this product since the 70s or even 80s or 90s. It's just amazing. Brands come and go, they get acquired, they disappear. Bronner's isn't going anywhere. They're not disappearing anytime soon that I know of, and they're not going to get bought by anybody that I know of. So
no, I think it's a legacy label. It's almost so, Dr. Bronner's, forgive me. It's all the wording on it is so dense. It's dense, and yet it translates to just about every package. And the message is, we are all one. It is just such a key message. So I get why they would not change it. It is their mission on the label.
Right. Somebody said they used to type the label out on a typewriter. Andrea Herman.
Oh my goodness.
I had no idea. Like, really?
Oh my goodness gracious. Now there is some really cool stuff coming in here. A multidisciplinary association for psychedelic studies received nearly 6 million from Dr. Bronner's, with an additional 1 million.
Wow.
All right, this is a big company and they have resources, but one of the things that's just been on my mind a little bit is, I am of great admiration of David and his family for all the philanthropic activities they help get in front of. And then also something like this, where they're leading by following and supporting. They support a lot of groups. They get out there, they do a lot of stuff. I know I'm exhausted sometimes in this world. So, where do they find the inspiration to keep driving all this change? It is inspiring. And
I think it feels, Steve, like, obviously they're in business to make money and grow a company and all that, but it doesn't feel like that's at the forefront of what they do and why they do it, to me. And whenever you encounter a brand that is so singularly focused on growth beyond all other things, it doesn't resonate as well as a brand like Bronner's that stays focused on its core values and mission and does that for a really long time. And there's just something about that legacy and that commitment to being real and then being a part of the world, like accessible part of the world. I mean, David is very relatable. I think as a leader now in the company, he seems like a very relatable guy. Like, people can kind of see themselves in him. And I like it. And I know everybody doesn't agree with the politics or anything related to that, or whether the use of psychedelics is a good thing or a bad thing. But he's earned the right, I think, to explore these things and do what he thinks is right for the people that work for him. And so it's got to be an outstanding place to work.
Andrea seems to also know a lot about the inner workings of Dr. Bronner's. And what's fascinating here in our world, where it's capitalism at all costs, Dr. Bronner's caps the total compensation of the highest paid employee executives at 5 times that of the lowest paid fully vested position. There is no difference between the benefits offered to company leaders and those offered to every single benefit eligible employee.
Wow.
I wonder if Dr. Bronner's is having a hard time finding workers right now.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I mean, you can see, like, in this statement that Andrea posted in the chat, they're very specific and I wouldn't say calculated, but they think things through. They don't just say, oh, we take the lowest paid hourly worker. They say we take the person who's vested in us and we invest in them. And I think that's just beautiful. I mean, what the heck?
Also, what's interesting to me is just, I mean, over the years, again, Bill, we had our Dr. Bronner's bottle of soap in our backpack.
Yeah.
You can't call them just a soap company anymore. They're a complete, natural living body care company. And with their foray into chocolates, and also they're pioneers in organic and sourcing organic palm oil.
Yeah.
So, I want to see what they do on the food side.
Yeah, so Michael and David, Christian typed in something. Michael and David each earn roughly 300,000 a year. They're now think about that. Gigantic household brand, right? Paying those guys 300 grand a year. Their 300 employees receive an array of benefits, including up to $7,500 in childcare assistance and annual bonuses of up to 10% of their annual pay. The cafeteria's vegan meals are free, as are the Zumba classes, back massages, and solar powered electric vehicle charging stations.
Wow. What I want is a solar powered electric vehicle massage Zumba class charging station. Let's do a mashup.
I thought things were cool at Gaim when we had, weekly yoga sessions. That was like, wow, this is really amazing. Then Christian did like when you mentioned buyout, the company regularly spurns the kind of buyout offers that have claimed other independent brands like Burt's, of course, yeah, and Tom's, which Tom and his wife, sort of said no to for a number of years before they caved. The offers, the brothers say, go right into the trash.
I would imagine they get offers left and right. And
are you kidding? Absolutely.
And this gives them the freedom to do what they do.
Yeah. Hey, it's for those of you that might have just joined us a little late. David got delayed and waylaid and is off our radar today, did not show up for the call. So Steve and I are having a discussion about Bronner's with all of you wonderful people in the chat room. So we apologize. Wait, there he is. He's here.
Damn. Yeah. Hey. Sorry, that was like a total trial by error. I'm on here. Let me tell Lauren I'm on. I'm on.
Folks. What was it? Dr. Rob said Mercury in retrograde.
Dude, it was something, man. I cannot even begin to explain. Like I'm surfing and I lost my key, so I began my car, so I couldn't. So anyway, I finally found my key.
You don't have to explain, David.
Zoom link, dude.
You don't have to explain, brother. We're so happy to see you. How are the waves?
Yeah,
they were actually really good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate why you wouldn't want to come on our podcast if you're surfing, brother.
Someone said in the chat room, David, with all the 21 minutes of prep, they all know everything they need to know about you right now. We've already helped them out. So welcome.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Are you guys down to do this?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Folks, we got David on the line. So, we're just going to hang with him and talk for a little bit. And we hope you stick around. Yeah. And David, we talked a lot about, we've got such admiration for you, your family, your work. I was showing the folks here at the home audience how you're becoming a household brand with all these products. It's freaking amazing. I use these every day. I got like 6 Dr. Bronner's products in my household. What we really admire is you've used this platform for all that positive change you're fostering out there. And some of the things we were talking about is, you and I had the chance to work together on GMO labeling. We got close. The work you've done in regenerative agriculture, the work you've done in drug policy change, and the work that your family is doing, I think, with mental health initiatives is just so amazing. So, I get exhausted out there just trying to deal with 1 or 2 things to try to change this world. And you guys are out there doing so much. How do you do it? I know you have a great platform, but it takes a lot of energy too. So
Yeah, short answer is we got an amazing team. Just incredible people that care passionately about what we do and are bringing incredible skill sets. So it really enables me to spend pretty much at this point half my time on advocacy versus the business. And our grandfather set, Dr. Bronner's was basically launched as a nonprofit religious organization to bring peace, unity, understanding, love across religious and ethnic divides. And the Holocaust was the dark inspiration that killed my great grandparents, Dr. Bronner's parents. And he saw in a nuclear armed world that the next Holocaust we're going to all perish. We don't really realize that we're all children of the same divine source, and realize that we're all brothers and sisters and siblings. And so we always had at the heart of our company the mission first. I mean, for my granddad, the soap was pretty much secondary. I mean, it was awesome soap, biodegradable, ecological. You could wash your hair dog dishes by the side of the river, not worry about polluting anything. So the soap is amazing. But for him, it was really the vehicle for the message. And yeah, we just honor that by leveraging the company in every way we can to advance the different causes we care about. And you listed off, the main ones there. And basically, it's regenerative organic agriculture, bringing the best of fair trade and fair labor together with soil health, with animal welfare criteria, and transform agriculture globally to something that's in harmony with nature, not destroying it. Where all the farmers and workers and animals are winning, not losing. And then drug policy reform is, we got to end this drug war and integrate psychedelic medicines and heal us up on a deep level, open our hearts and minds to each other and the natural world. And, just really believe a globally, psychedelically opened global citizenry is going to be much more compassionate and empathic and less judgmental, more willing to deal with the really huge issues we're grappling with. So so we have this 5-to-1 cap on our profit, or on our executive compensation, and get to dedicate our profits to these incredible causes. And yeah, it was just really cool to join forces with you. We came so close to beating the whole Monsanto ag chemical machine 3 times. We lost, so just almost beat them 3 times, and then broke through. We did beat them in Vermont. And yeah, but as much as like GMO labeling is important and crucial, ultimately, like even if we got rid of genetic engineering, conventional agriculture is still a disaster. And that's where I just really started focusing on the regenerative organic standard, like like focus on the complete solution rather than taking out the like kind of worst of the worst. Like let's focus on the best of the best. And so yeah, it's where a lot of our energies have been going, and we feel like that's going to be hopefully you're going to start really seeing a lot more products soon. We're getting a critical mass now with farmers and ranchers and brands certifying under the regenerative organic seal. And yeah, so that's really exciting.
That's really awesome. Are you also working internationally on regenerative? And if so, has all these supply chain issues affected you guys at all, or have you find ways to work around that?
We do. I mean, most of our supply chains are international. Our major materials are coconut and palm kernel, olive oil. Olive oil we could source domestically, but we actually have a really cool project in the West Bank in Palestine. We're working with Palestinian farmers and who are doing everything regenerative and rad.
Wow.
And then, so 90% comes from there, and 10% comes from the Israeli side, half from a Jewish family farm and half from a Christian Palestinian project. And my great aunt Lottie, Dr. Bronner's kid sister, got out of Nazi Germany when she was 16 and went to a kibbutz and then Palestine, now Israel, called Ein Gev. And we're not anti-Israel, but very much believe in Israel's right to exist, but we hate the occupation and really Palestinian cause and the right to Palestinian self-determination. And so anyways, we're all about unity and love, and so we got Muslim, Christian, Jewish olive oil in our soaps to really resonate to our granddad's mission. But to your question, yeah, so we have sister companies that produce our coconut and palm oil abroad. We have a coconut company in Sri Lanka, another one in Samoa, and then we have a palm sister company in Ghana. And especially with palm, I mean, we were looking at a, you know, just real disaster with the way palm is generally grown in these corporate plantations where you're ripping up rainforest in Indonesia and Borneo, and orangutan habitat being destroyed, and farming communities displaced, and huge amounts of greenhouse gas being oxidized in the atmosphere, and just completely ecologically destructive and socially disruptive practices. But there's nothing inherent around palm that's evil. I mean, it's just another tree oil crop. It's just the way it's grown is terrible. Just like soy, GMO soy in the Amazon is, you know, plantations of GMO soy are going in and you know, in displacing rainforest and cattle ranching. But there's nothing inherent in any of these crops or even in ranching that needs to be ecologically destructive. There's ways to do this regeneratively. And we're working now in Ghana with 800 farmers who are farming not only palm, but cocoa, banana, and cassava in a multi-strata ag forestry. So you have different canopy heights replicating a natural forest. So you'll have like tall trees, mid-level trees, bushes, and ground cover. And if you do this right with the right spacing and, you know, just understand how these all work together, you actually will double the yields versus having monocultures in that same area, because you're maximizing photosynthetic capture and biomass yield. And cocoa is another very problematic crop. It's like grown in these dense monocultures, huge amounts of insecticide, child slavery, just horribly depressed prices. So our farmers are showing how you can take two of the world's most problematic crops and farm them in a regenerative system that's, you know, boosting incomes, boosting yields, minimizing weed and pest pressure, restoring rural economies. So yeah, so it's awesome. But unfortunately, the supply chain disruptions have been real. Generally, we've been able to kind of buffer our inventory and negotiate them, but we've definitely had to resort to some air freight at great cost and make sure we're not out of materials. So it's definitely been a real issue to navigate. But for the most part, I think we're probably a little bit better than others just because we are more or less vertically integrated. But we're, you know, for the long story short, we're able to, you know, keep our sister companies, you know, they're in business, or, you know, that mostly it's their business we want to make sure isn't disrupted. So, you know, it's difficult to navigate the waters, but we got a good team and we're just buffering up our inventories and mostly writing it out.
Thank you for that. You know, I know it's impacting everyone, and a lot of companies are passing on the costs. Are you feeling that pressure at all?
Yeah, we're trying to do the minimum. We just had to do a 4.5% price increase to kind of stay ahead of things, and probably something similar next year, just with the way inflationary pressures are. You know, we have a target kind of margin that we like to hit, and, you know, we want to preserve that, not because we're profiting. I mean, no executive making 5 times more than any other worker, and that's you know, there's no, like, you know, self-interest in this, but just to maintain the level of support to the different charities and causes.
Understood.
We want to maintain that margin. So we're passing along the price increases as we need to. You know, definitely. You know, it's a tough climate out there. You know, what we did for Bronner's is we passed through the full cost of living, which was 6.5%, which is like pretty gnarly, but you know, that's our commitment to our workers, and to you know, make sure everybody is, you know, able to, you know, live and maintain their standard of living and not have to make sacrifices if you're working with Bronner's. And so it's like, well, I guess we got to pass along this cola, but, you know, it is what it is, and we'll just keep doing that and raise our prices as we need to. But, you know, but keeping it, you know, I think some companies maybe are taking advantage of this situation a little bit, but we're, you know, we have our target margin, and you know, that's where we're going to keep things.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to just bring up as well, you talked about food forests. I know we had some guests on in January, Tom and Sarah Newmark, from Finca Luna Nueva down in Costa Rica. And that's a big emphasis of Tom's is Foon Forests as well. So I don't know if you guys have ever had a conversation about that, but I'm sure he'd like to learn about what you're up to. You know,
yeah, no, absolutely. No, we mutual respect and admiration. I definitely appreciate he's really getting after ag forestry, dynamic ag forestry with tree crops and intercropping, complementary species, and that's the yeah. I mean, that's the future for tree crops. Is absolutely it's you know, when we talk about regenerative, you know, a perennial system versus a annual, it's it's different, but similar principles. And in an annual system, it's the diversity is more in time, like you're rotating complementary crops, and and having perimeter plantings of pollinator friendly habitats and predator insects and that kind of thing, and having diversity in space as well. But and just having like say an eight-year crop rotation, but then you're moving that through time, and so any one field isn't being planted with the same crop in successive years, and you understand the what's a heavy nitrogen feeder versus not, and so planting nitrogen fixing cover crops before the heavy feeders and matching that to the market demands, and it's hyper variable calculus that what these farmers got to do, and it's incredible.
I could see the Dr. Bronner's message on a coffee bag. It was another product that's facing a lot of pressures.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I mean, we try to do things in an organic way. I mean, like if our farmers were intercropping coffee, I mean, probably. And in the story of cocoa, we, because our farmers were already doing this for 5 years, and we were helping them market to top level chocolatiers in Europe, and Ghanaian cocoa is like, some of the top in the world. So we got to know like some of the major players in the chocolate realm, and in particular, Maestrani, a multi-generational Swiss family chocolatier in Switzerland, just top amazing quality. And, and we just realized, wow, if we launch our own chocolate, this would be a real opportunity to tell the story of dynamic ag forestry and this whole method of agriculture, and also be a flagship for regenerative organic certification. So yeah, one thing led to another, and we launched our own chocolate. And but yeah, we would never have done that if our farmers weren't already intercropping with cocoa, and if we didn't have these really strong relationships with people who actually really know how to make chocolate in the way we know how to make soap, but don't know how to make chocolate.
Got it.
David,
Bill, I know you only have so much more time with us yourself. So what do you got for David?
I'm good. I have a question for you, David, about regenerative organic certification. I know you're aligned with some other people in the industry on that. Do you want to say a little bit about the work you're doing there, and who else is involved, and how other people who are listening in on the call today can get involved?
Yeah, so our founding partners were Patagonia, the clothing company, and then Rodale, Thorough Project, and Compassion Rural Farming. So Rodale, of course, being the godfather of the regenerative organic movement, and then Thorough Project being a really leading fair labor, fair trade organization, and then Compassion Rural Farming doing really great work in promoting pasture-based livestock, really anti-factory farming, and then some really good farmers and ranchers. David Vetter was a original board member, and what he's doing is just incredible.
Yeah, I'll be out to his farm in July, David. I'm going to go visit.
Yeah, I don't think he's imported off-farm fertility for 30 years, and and just that whole in biodynamic, and we've got some biodynamic champions involved, and the whole way of looking at your farm as an organism, and understanding the feed and fertility flows, and that you need there is such a thing as a sustainable balance of plant and animal life. And as a lifelong vegan, I've been vegan for 20 years. I've gone on a very deep dive and visited these really high level farms where you can see like, okay, like just like in a wild ecosystem, there's a sustainable balance. So there can be in a farming ecosystem, and David Vetter is a great example of doing, managed grazing with his cattle, grazing the land in the way buffalo and wild ruminants would in nature, with predator pressure, moving them through the landscape so that you're not overgrazing any one part. And he's does that for 4 years on pasture, and then he puts it into cropping, and it really builds up the fertility, and then does 4 years of cropping, and then kind of goes back to 4 years of pasture. And just really amazing farms, and just understanding like, oh, okay, this is, and understanding that, if this animal lives a life worth living and can live fulfill its instinctual behaviors and be on pasture, and then a humane, quick end. As a vegan, I don't have that's, I'm in solidarity with these farmers against the factory farm machine that's eating us for lunch, and these animals in cages where their lives are so miserable, the best day of their life is their last day, and being force fed GMO soy and corn. It's just a disaster. So we got to get rid of the factory farms, get rid of this conventional disaster industrial agriculture, integrate the animals back onto the farm at a much lower population, and but some real champions of just the next level of regenerative organic agriculture coming together to make this standard, and really just recognizing what good organic farmers were already doing, but unfortunately corporate players came into the organic space. It's just organic, the regs are kind of like what you shouldn't do, not what you should do, and regenerative organic is more about what you should be doing.
Got it.
So regenerative organic certified is where people can go to learn more. There's a lot of information out there about regenerative agriculture as well. David, I want to just address a couple comments, questions here from folks. We're so glad you came in. We like to keep it short and sweet. And we're just such a pleasure to see you. I think the work you're doing with regenerative, you're hitting on so many key issues that are facing our society. And frankly, the most existential to me is climate change right now. And that's where regenerative really comes in, because all the crops you're working on, everything is all going to be affected by this. So I think in your investment in this, you're building resiliency in your own supply chains. And I think other manufacturers should take note of that.
Great.
Yeah, that's a huge part of regenerative organic is, you're basically building up the carbon in the soil just by, basically what you're doing is bringing your soil back to life. Like if you're, for example, in India, in Uttar Pradesh, we work with 1,000 farmers who are growing our mint, and then they're growing mint in rotation with rice and lentils. And we've got a huge compost operation there, just massive, but the soils are like 0% carbon. Just horrible shape. But we're showing with just regenerative practices of applying compost and cover crops and minimal tillage and doing all the right things, we're bringing that carbon content up. That those soils are coming back to life, and as those soils come to life and you're feeding the soil, they're just producing the nutrient dense food and just the photosynthetic processes involved of carbon dioxide being converted to carbohydrates that makes the root shoots and leaves of crops that 20 to 40% of those carbohydrates are exudated into the soil to feed the mycorrhizal fungi and bacteria. And as that cycle just kickstarts and comes back to life, you're like, the amount of carbon that gets sequestered in humus and long recalcitrant long form carbon storage is massive. And that humus, it's not only sequestering carbon, which at global scale, this is one of the most significant, if not the most significant strategies we have to take excess carbon dioxide in the atmosphere and sequester it, in long-term form in our soils. But it's like reforestation. You're bringing this soil that's been just devastated by industrial agriculture, and all the carbon, all the life and carbon has been oxidized. And you bring it back to life, it's like the trees are growing, but it's underground, and the amount of carbon is massive. And then this also has each 1% rise in carbon has something like 10,000 gallons of water storage. So these huge rain events, as climate change makes weather more wild and crazy, and you have these more and more severe rain events, like a good regenerative farm is able to absorb all that water and keep it. Like David Vedder, it's a perfect example. You see just all the soil around them, all this GMO corn and soy, all their soils are just rinsed away. These rainstorms come through, and it's just you can see all their soils just being rinsed, just washed away. But his farm is like this oasis, and just holds all that water. And it
And he
basically,
helps a whole bunch of organic farmers in his region too, because they all come down, for his crop days that he's doing in July to learn more about organic. So he's really helping a community of farmers. You're right. It's an oasis in a sea of conventional agriculture.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the GMO weeds, around our tolerant weeds all out there, and
and it is a film, Anna Fonfa. It's called Dreaming of a Better World. David, we could have you back on to talk a whole lot more, I can tell, but we have to kind of wrap it up. Bill, I wonder if you want to mention a comment or two from our audience and kind of wrap us if you could. And I'm so glad you came and joined us, and you also caught some waves, so you got both in.
Hey, so someone wants you to be the president of California.
Well, wait a minute. There is no president of California.
I didn't know there was one, but maybe you should be it if there is one.
Maybe when you guys secede.
Well, we got to let those psychedelics permeate the culture for another 20 years or something before. I think like 1 second of oppo research, and I'd probably be toast in today's world. But maybe in 20 years, that'll all be a positive with your average voter. But and I'd love to come back on, and apologies here again. Oh my gosh, it's kind of.
Oh, thank you. We would love to have you again.
Great.
You've had a great influence on the hemp world, and we want to have you back at NOCO Hemp Expo in Denver next March. I hope you'll consider it. But there's some folks out there that are doing women's feminine care products using organic regenerative hemp and cotton. We love them. It's called Trace Fem Care. And, they're just looking for advice on how you get started up in this world. And I know that's a really big question, but I might ask you, how can startups in this environment make it? It's been tough through the pandemic, and things are changing in the grocery world. So maybe that is I know it's a longer question, but do you have any top thoughts on it at all?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think definitely, starting with the co-ops and independents, and, that's going to be your natural, first customers, the stores that are really mission aligned.
And that's one of our sponsors, is the Independent Natural Food Retailers Association. So thanks for that plug.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the co-ops, infra, those guys are your allies. Make sure you get a sustainable margin structure. Understand your costs. That's, you got to go into distribution and Unify and KE and the smaller. Well, I guess the smaller, maybe some of the smaller ones are good and better to work with, actually.
Sure.
But that's just understand your cost structure and all the discounts and all that kind of stuff. And then bringing in money. I mean, that's obviously the key one here, is just make sure the money you bring in to finance your growth is aligned with your vision and mission. Because I mean, I think we all know the sad story of many mission-driven brands who sell out or just bring on the wrong kind of investor money and get whipsawed. So just make sure you got alignment with the people bringing financing. Yeah.
We're very aligned with your mission, David, and I would just say how our agency, Compass Natural, can help any of the philanthropic work you do. We'd like to step up to that plate. So think about that, please. We're here to be of service. Bill, you wanna? I know I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. I was just going to say I have to run, but I would just like to say that most of the comments in the chat room, David, have aligned with where Stephen and I were prior to getting on, which is to say, love the brand, love the products, love the mission, and support the work, and are just absolutely amazed with how much you do. And can't thank you.
And we love you, David.
Can't thank you enough.
Right on. We love you, brother.
Can't thank you enough, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you for joining us today. You have a great day, a great summer, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Beautiful.
Everyone, thank you for joining us. Turned out to be one of our best shows today. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.